Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of the Sarah Seams podcast. Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of the Sarah Seams podcast. I'm Sarah, the maker here, the crafter here behind this account, podcast, vlog, whatever you want to call it. I talk mostly about knitting, but also sprinkle in some sewing and quilting, whatever fiber art is tickling my fancy at the moment. I live in Columbus, Ohio with my partner and our 2 cats. And today is January 31st, if I didn't already say that. Hard to believe we're at the end of January already. I feel like after the holidays, it was nice to have a slow month, but it kind of felt like it flew by as well. I've been doing lots and lots of knitting, tackling some big sewing projects, which I'll talk about later. And I'm getting ready to start another quilt, which I will also talk about in another segment. So I'm just gonna jump right in. I have lots to share today. So I'm gonna start with what I'm wearing. This is a Mandy boat tee. This is, I believe, a free pattern by Tessuti Fabrics. Really easy to make. It has this boat neck, it has a drop shoulder, and for me it's kind of between a 3/4 and a bracelet length sleeve. I've made a couple of these. I really like them. They're super comfortable. This is a striped cotton jersey knit from Blackbird Fabrics. I'm also wearing a pair of hand knitted socks, which you cannot see, but I'll put a picture of them in. I'm wearing the Peregrine socks by Sari Nordlund. The yarn is Caslin Fingering from Shop La Mercerie. Sorry, that's her Instagram handle. It's just La Mercerie is the shop name, out in Washington, I believe. And I love their yarns. It's one of my favorite places to buy yarn online. This is the Caslin Fingering, which is their house brand, their in-house line of yarn. And this color is, I believe, Vermilion 03. Let me check my notes. Yes, Vermilion 03. And this was one of the pair of socks from Sari Nordlund's Summer Sock Knit Along in 2022. So every summer, Sari Nordlund hosts a summer sock knit along where you buy 3 skeins of fingering weight yarn or use stash, whatever you have, and you make 4 pairs of socks. So the whole point is to get 4 pairs of socks from 3 skeins of yarn. And I believe it usually starts in June, July, August, and runs through September, or maybe it's May through August. But you knit a pair of socks every month over the summer for 4 months. And then at the end you have this beautiful collection of socks. And it was actually a picture that someone else posted of their finished socks from the Summer Sock Knit Along in 2020 that kind of inspired me to start knitting, because it was just such a beautiful picture of these neutral colored coordinating socks, and all of Sari's designs are beautiful. So yeah, I saw that picture and I was like, I have to learn how to do that. So I started knitting socks, and here we are all over a year and a half later, and I'm obsessed with knitting. So all thanks to Sari's Summer Sock Knit Along. And I have participated in it both years since I started knitting, and it's something I look forward to every year. So those are the Peregrine socks. And that's what I'm wearing. So now we'll jump into finished objects. All right, my first finished objects I have to share with you today are kind of a set. It's a set of 3. So last time I shared I had cut these out, and now I have them finished to show you. So I have sewn the ZW stash bag in all 3 sizes. This is a set of patterns by Baguettes is the designer's name, and I'll link everything below in the description. But this is a 0 waist or low waist pattern that is available in 3 different sizes, and I was hurting for some project bags, and I had a bunch of natural cotton canvas, so I decided I was gonna make all of these. So I'm gonna go in reverse size order because the little one is my favorite and it's so cute. So I'm gonna start with the largest size. And here it is. I don't know if you can see that okay. So this is the large ZW stash bag, and these were so fun and quick to sew. I really recommend these if you have some heavier fabric in your stash. and you want a quick sewing project or just like something really fun to sew for yourself, and they're great project bags too. So you can see it's quite large. I mean, it's not huge, but I could definitely fit a sweater in there. And it has little pockets all along the bottom for you to put needles or pins or whatever in. And if you have long circular needles, they can even go up through the pocket up here. I'm sorry, that is Moo yelling in the background. If you can hear meowing, that is my cat interrupting us, but we're just gonna ignore him. So yeah, it has this really cute detail where the straps come down and tie in a little knot as well. And then on the back, I omitted a few of the skinnier pockets to form kind of like a phone size pocket. And then the large size actually has a couple of little interior pockets as well, if I can show that. So they're really shallow. They're only like a couple of inches deep, but they run all the way across the inside. So you could put stitch markers, whatever little things you had in there. But this is the only size that has interior pockets. There is also an option to line any of the bags, so you could always add more pockets to the inside with a lining or add any other kind of pockets that you wanted. But yeah, this is the large size. Really cute, really excited about that. Okay. All right, so now moving on to the medium size. Again, these are all made in the same 6-ounce natural canvas, which I purchased from Sewn Fabric Store. So this is the medium size. So you can see this one has longer handles. It's more of a like over the shoulder bag, but it's a really nice size. It also has those little skinny pockets on the bottom all the way around, and same thing here as the large on the back. I chose to omit them, so this is more of a phone size pocket. It's just really simple and pretty and classic and clean. I don't know, I just love the design of these. So yeah, that's the medium size bag. I'm just throwing things on the floor today, that's the energy. And this one's my favorite. It's the size I need the least, but it's of course my favorite. I don't know why, I'm just drawn to like miniature things, and this is very cute. So this is the size small bag. It's so little, like how cute it is. Ah, it's so cute. So it's same design as the large. It has all the little pockets around the bottom. This time I just did them across the front and the back. Same thing, you could put your circular needles up through here to keep them secure. And it's just plain on the inside. But I just love this. I've already used this multiple times. I normally keep my projects as I'm working on them in little crates, and I just kind of carry them around my house with me. But if I'm going to a friend's to watch a movie or taking knitting in the car, I like to have something a little more portable than an open crate. So I like to use this kind of bag for transporting my projects more than anything else. The bigger ones I probably will use to store larger projects in eventually. And there it goes. So those are my ZW stash bags. Again, I'll link the pattern below. Really fun, quick knit. Goodness. So I sewed all of those up in the past like week or so, just whenever I had a couple of hours here or there, and I really recommend them if you are looking to do a little scrap busting. My next finished object is a pair of socks. Of course, gotta always have socks. And I'm obsessed with these. The color is so pretty. Just show you. It's so bright. You can see. So these are the Copeland socks. This is the first pattern from the Ready Set Socks book by Pom Pom Magazine. All the designs in the book are by Rachel Coopy of Coop Knits on Instagram. And yeah, I got this yarn secondhand from my favorite online art supply thrift store called Make and Mend. And it's Araucania, I'm sure I'm butchering that and I'm so sorry. It's Araucania yarns. It's hand painted yarn, 100% extra fine merino. And these I made for myself, and I know 100% extra fine merino is probably not ideal for socks. So these are just gonna be some cozy house socks for me. But I just absolutely love the colors and the texture of the like speckling in the yarn. So pretty, just really simple, kind of a shorty. I need to knit some more shorter socks for myself this year. That's one of my goals. So I love these. They're like kind of a really cute ankle sock with a heel flap and gusset. And yeah, I just love these. They were so easy and intuitive to knit, and it's just, I don't know, knitting vanilla socks just kind of feels like my happy place at this point. Like, there's nothing better than knitting a super useful object with a beautiful yarn, and it's kind of mindless for you. Like, for me, that's the sweet spot. So yeah, I really love how these turned out. And of course, I've started another pair of socks that I'll share in the whip section. But yeah, these are my most recent socks, and I just am obsessed with this yarn. So my next knitting finished object, and I kind of can't believe how quickly I knit this actually. I did work on it a lot. I don't want this to be deceptive. It took a long time, but it was so fun to knit. Like, once I started, I just kind of couldn't stop. So I can't remember. I think I had cast this on in the last podcast, but this is my Aeble cowl, or Aeble bandana by Woolfolk Designs. So I'll just pop it on. Try not to do too much damage to the hair here. So this is my Aeble cowl. So you can see it has so much fun texture. So you start with this like honeycomb cable at the bottom, and then most of it is garter with little baubles dispersed throughout, but then there's other like cable sections as well. So there's this cable section here. A little further up, there's these big horseshoe cables. There's also a stockinette section with some little garter stripes. And then up near the neck, there is this cable section as well. So I absolutely love how this turned out. I feel like this is gonna be my new like go-to like grab it and go scarf. I'll pop it off so I can show you the detail a little more, just so that you can see. Oh, it's so pretty. I just love all the different textures. Before I blocked this, it looked totally crazy. It was all like shrunken and shriveled and weird from all the cables like being randomly throughout, but after blocking, it's just so pretty. The yarn also softened up quite a bit after blocking. So this is Quilt Co. Osprey in the colorway Twig. So yeah, it's just a really lovely neutral warm brown. So you knit it flat, and then you seam up the back. So I didn't do a great job on my seam here, I'm not gonna lie. I think it looks okay. Obviously it's in the back, so I don't notice it, but I probably really should have done a mattress stitch, and I just kind of made something up. So there we go, that's how it seemed. But yeah, it's so nice. I really want to make another one or two. Like, it was so fun to knit. I will say I ran out of yarn, so had to make a few adjustments towards the end. So this is a Woolfolk pattern, and they recommend Woolfolk yarn, but I decided to use this Quilt Co. Osprey, which was like a dead-on match as far as like yardage to grams. So I thought this will be plenty. But I started getting towards the end of the scarf, and I was like, I am not gonna have enough yarn. So it was like, this was honestly my first like scary yarn chicken experience. Usually I have plenty of yarn left over, but I think somewhere along the way in all the garter, my gauge just got looser, and because it's also turned out a little bit wider than it was supposed to be. When I went to block it, it was like 4 inches wider than the width measurement was supposed to be, and I couldn't like pad it in anymore. Like, it was just too big. So I really like how it turned out. And you know, it's fine. Let me see, I wrote down how many rows I had to take out. So I had to shorten it by 5 rows. So basically I eliminated the last, there was supposed to be one more repeat of this cable, and I just kind of eliminated that so that I could preserve the amount of garter that was supposed to be between the top of that cable section and the end of the scarf or the cowl. So proportionally, I think it still looks good and looks correct. It's just this cable section is a little bit shorter than it was supposed to be. The other thing is it was supposed to have an I-cord bind off around the top edge. I chose not to do that because I was running out of yarn, and the I-cord bind off was going to take more yarn than a regular cast off. And also all of the other edges just have, you slip the edges so that it has the nice little knit stitches along the edge. And I kind of thought, I kind of just want the top to look the same. So I really like how it turned out. Don't regret not doing the I-cord edging. And yeah, it's just so fun and like interesting, and I love all of the textures. Also, I don't love baubles. I don't love knitting baubles, but I love this because there's only like 15 baubles on this whole thing. So and every time you do a bauble, you only ever have to do one bauble per row, and they're very sporadic. And I forget where I picked up this tip, but I've heard people say they have a hard time getting their baubles to pop out. But I picked up a tip somewhere to like, you knit the bauble, and then on the next row, the stitch above it, you knit through the back loop, and that helps to like rotate the bauble out so it sticks out a little bit more. So I did do that on this. It's not called out in the pattern here. It's just something I kind of picked up along the way. But yeah, I really love it. It's so soft and warm, and I really want to make another one soon. So we'll see if I get to it or not. But I feel like this would be a really nice gift too if you want to like knit something really special for somebody. So that is the Aeble cowl. My last finished object to share with you today, and I wasn't sure if this one was going to make it in time. It was on the blocking mats until like 10 o'clock this morning. So I finished my Linto. So if you've watched any of the previous episodes, you'll know I'm participating in the Let's Lento cowl that's being hosted by Rebecca from the Aeble podcast and Amy Palco from, I believe her podcast is The Meaningful Stitch. They're hosting that knit along over on Instagram, and everyone is knitting the Lento, which is this really lovely, simple, top-down raglan sweater, but it has a really interesting gauge. So this is a DK weight yarn. This is Camellia Fiber Co. Yak DK in the color chocolate, and you guys, this yarn is, it's so soft. It is like the softest yarn. I feel like I say that every time, but like it is, I mean, look at the drape first of all, like it is like fluid. It's so nice, and it's so soft, and it's so lustrous, which I love too. It's almost shiny from the silk. So yeah, I believe this is 70% merino, 20% yak, and 10% silk or something like that. So yeah, it's just a really beautiful, simple basic. There's short row shaping at the neck, a folded neckband. You can see I didn't do a great job weaving in my ends. And then just a simple sleeve with cuff. So a couple of things about this. I ordered 4 skeins of this yarn, and I had just over 900 yards, I think. And I was really worried it wasn't going to be enough yarn for this. So I typically would have made the size 5, and I decided to make the size 4 instead, which for me meant I have a 44-inch bust, and I believe the size 4 is like a 45.5-inch bust measurement. So it's very little ease. It's like an inch or 2 of ease in the bust. So this sweater is quite fitted on me. It's not tight, it's just snug. And I'm very confident that I'll wear this constantly around my house and be able to find ways to outfit it, but it is tighter than I would prefer my sweaters to fit. I have a little bit more of like a boxy aesthetic in my wardrobe usually, so I am very excited to wear this under some of my like pinafores and with some of my skirts or even like over dresses, but it is a little bit more snug than I would prefer. So that's just one thing. The other thing is I knew it was going to grow significantly, which it did, especially in the sleeves. So I'm glad I knitted everything a little bit shorter, and the body was really short. Like it was, when I finished, it was too short. So I undid the bind off, which was also the bind off was too tight. So I undid the bind off, and I just knitted like 4 or 5 extra rows of ribbing because it really just needed like 1/2 inch or so. So you can see the ribbing at the bottom is like a little bit wider than the ribbing on the cuff. But I think it looks really cute, actually. I love ribbing, like knitting ribbing, the appearance of ribbing. I think it's very cute. And so that was like perfect. It turned out the perfect length. I think I knitted like 6 inches before I started the ribbing, and then I added like almost 3 inches of ribbing. Well, no, that doesn't make sense. It turned out about 8 inches. No, I think I knitted like 4 inches of body and then the ribbing. So yeah, it was really, really cropped, but it turned out after blocking to be like the perfect length, and I really, really love it. And the sleeves also grew inches in blocking, but they're like, they actually hit me like perfectly now, like right at the wrist. So I will probably wear this in the next episode. It's just really nice. I'm very happy with it. Let me make sure I didn't have any more notes. Yeah, that was it. So this was my first entry for the Let's Linto Cowl, and I'm also entering this as my entry for the Bougie Sweatshirt Knit Along that's being hosted by Casey Aeble at Young Folk Knits. And this feels bougie. I mean, look how shiny and drapey and pretty it is. Very excited. You know, I never used to hold yarn up to my face until I started watching knitting podcasts, and now every time I get yarn, I'm just like, it's a thing. So yeah, that's my Linto, and that is my last finished object for today. Okay, so moving into works in progress, I have quite a few to discuss today. I have 5 whips, and the last one, which is the 6th one, is kind of like a combined whip acquisition make-along that I'm going to talk about. So the first one I want to talk about is my poppy coat. I'll put a picture of the finished pattern here from the designer so you can see. This is a design by We Are the Fabric Store, and it's a super oversized, big lapels, classic coat. And I really wanted to make another coat this year because my Nova coat that I made last year, I wear every day, and it's basically my only coat. And I live in Ohio, so I need more coats because we have intense winters. So I got this beautiful gray, charcoal gray and black with little lines of blue plaid wool coating from Blackbird Fabrics. They recently had a sale. Oh, it looks really dark. There you go. They recently had a sale of dead stock coatings. So this is a dead stock wool coating from Italy, and it's absolutely lovely. It's actually double faced. So one side is the plaid, and then there's interfacing on this, but the other side is just a solid black, but it's really thick. Like, I don't know if you can see how thick that is. It's like an 1/8 of an inch thick. It's very, very thick. So it's gonna be very, very warm. So I, last time I had just gotten the fabric, so I went ahead and made a muslin, and I'm sorry, I don't have any pictures of it. It was real quick and dirty. Like, it was just the 2 front pieces, the back piece, and the sleeves. And I just used some old sheets from the thrift store. That's what I use to make all of my muslins. You can get them for like $1 or $2, and it's so much fabric, so they're perfect for that. Because this pattern is so oversized. I think my measurements put me into the size like 22, but it's basically a column. So like from the bust down, it's just like a really oversized column. And I was planning to size down 3 sizes and make the size 16, because even then in the waist, which was where I was concerned about it being too tight, it would still have over 10 inches of ease. So I wanted to make the muslin to make sure that was going to be enough room for me everywhere still, but also to check the length. The length of everything, because this pattern is so oversized, and it's drafted for someone that's taller than me. I'm 5'5". This pattern is drafted for someone that's 5'7". I wanted to make sure that the coat itself wasn't going to be too long. I didn't want it to be like floor length. I wanted it to be like mid-calf length. And also I wanted to check the sleeves, because sleeves tend to be long on me. And I'm very glad that I did, because I took 3 inches of length off the sleeves. They were extremely long. And I took another 2 inches of length off the bottom of the coat. And to check that when I make my muslin, I actually just cut off all the hem allowance on the muslin so that I can see like this is the finished length, you know, without having to do any hemming or anything like that. Just cut it off. So I did that, glad I did. made my pattern adjustments, shortened everything where necessary, and I cut out all of my pieces, which was an endeavor. There's many large pieces, and you know, you're cutting out plaid, so you want to make sure your plaids at least match across the front. I do the best I can. I don't get like super over analytical about plaid matching and pattern matching because I don't know. I find like if I was buying something in a store, it's not something, you know, if it's really off, you notice it, but I find for me, I just try not to stress myself out about it. I do the best I can and then I live with it. So yeah, I cut out all of my pieces, cut out all of the lining pieces. And then I did go ahead and do all of the pre-work that goes into a coat, which in this case is a lot of interfacing and some pre-pressing. So I will say this coat recommends using fusible interfacing on the entire front pieces. I elected not to do that because my fabric is so thick. I just don't think it needs it for body. I think where I did choose to do all the other interfacing that the pattern called for, and you know, in those places, it's more for stability because a wool coating will stretch over time. But as far as structure and body, I don't think it needs it, but where it did need it for stability, around the pockets, around the cuffs, on the collar, I did go ahead and do it. So that was a lot of time, a lot of quality time with my iron, which is not my favorite activity, but if you're gonna sew, you have to learn to love ironing. So I did all the interfacing, and there were some pre-pressing as well, pre-pressing hems, pre-pressing pocket welts. So everything's ready to go to start sewing. So I'm hoping to start sewing this in the next couple of weeks. I'd love to finish it in time to be able to wear it while it's still cold. But if not, I'll have a lovely new coat for next winter, and I'm very excited about that. So that is my poppy coat. Now I'm gonna move on to knitting works in progress. So the first one is, of course, a pair of socks. So I just test knit the Dorney sweater by the Aeble, which was an all over cable knit sweater. And after I finished it, I was like, I should really like take a break from cables. I was like, I need a break from cables. We're on a break. And then of course I immediately cast on 2 other cable projects because what's wrong with me? Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. To be fair, in my defense, this sock pattern, I did not realize really that it was cabled, but it is. So let me show you. So this is the Lines sock pattern by Russ Knitwear. I'll put a picture of the pattern in. And you can see it has these pretty diagonal lines running down the side of the sock. And I don't know why, in my brain I just thought, ooh, pretty, I'll make that. I didn't think, oh, that's probably cables. They're 1x1 cables. So here I am again knitting cables, because of course once I started, then I'm already committed. So the yarn I'm using, I should say these are gonna be from my partner Troy, who's very knit worthy and really likes the first pair of socks that I knit him earlier this year, so he's getting a couple more. So this is the yarn. It's a really bright teal. This color does not come through on camera, right? It looks much more blue on the camera, but it's really teal. So I got this on a recent trip to Chicago. I went to visit Yarnify, which is a local yarn store there. And this is, let me double check. It's Three Irish Girls is the yarn brand. And this color is called Desert Turquoise. So yeah, let me show you. I've made so much progress. I just finished my Copeland socks that I showed you earlier a few days ago, so I really just got to casting on these line socks, and I've just done like the first 1 or 2 rows of the cable. So I really want to learn how to knit cables without a needle, especially for something like this where it's just 1x1 cables, because I feel like I should be able to do that. But every time I try, I just can't get the hang of it. So please, if you have a tutorial that you love for how to knit cables without a cable needle, please put it in the comments below, because I really would like to learn, and I don't know, maybe I haven't found the right technique for me. But that is something I want to work on with this project, because I feel like for 1x1 cables, you really don't need a cable needle. I just can't get my brain to figure out how to do it. So yes, these will be my line socks in this really pretty teal yarn. Again, the pattern is by Rust Knitwear. It's fairly new pattern, I believe. My second cabled whip, which I cast on because I saw Sari Nordland is hosting, she just released a bunch of new beanie patterns, and so she is hosting a top-down hat knit along. I really love Sari's hat patterns. I've knit several of them. I've knit 3 or 4 iris hats at this point, which is just a basic 1x1 rib beanie. I've knit the hat I'm about to show you, I've knit previously. And I've also knit her Beast Beret, I believe is how it's pronounced. So yeah, I really love a top-down hat pattern because you can just keep on going until you run out of yarn, which is great. Also, I love starting with the fun part, which is the increases. So this hat I'm about to show you, I actually bought yarn for this like over a year ago with the intent of making this hat. And then I think it was gonna be my first like heavily cabled project. And I think I struggled a bit with the cast on. So you have to do a circular cast on with, so that you can like pull the tail and tighten it in to cinch the hat at the end, which was a new to me technique at the time. And then you're immediately starting increases and cables. So it was just a little bit overwhelming for me. So let me show you, this is what is the name of this? Moon River Cable Hat by Sari Nordland. And here's what I have so far. Just a little hat nugget. This is my yarn. So you can see it's a bare, it's an undyed colorway of Preciosa by Knit Picks, which I think they might have actually discontinued this yarn because I was trying to look for it on their website and nothing came up. So sorry, this yarn is no longer available, but it is 100% merino unspun bare yarn. Sorry, it's blowing out a little bit there. So you can see, it's just a light cream color, and yeah, it's unspun. So it's really soft and fluffy. And you would not think that this would give good cables, but it gives pretty good cables, I gotta say. There's quite a bit of definition there. So yeah, this is what I've got. So you can see that cast on is a little crazy. Sorry, here we go. And I actually cast on with a sock yarn in the same color because I was worried that this unspun yarn would not be strong enough to cinch the hat at the end. So if you look really close, you can see there's some little cream colored fingering weight yarn right in the center of the cast on. And then I just switched over to the Preciosa. But yeah, it's such a beautiful hat design. I mean, this is a really intricate cable pattern and it's just really nice. I knit one of these for my partner in September in a blue wool yarn, and he wears it every day, which is nice. He loves his, and I initially wanted it for me, so I decided I think after I finished, I was kind of stalled on my Lento because I was waiting for my needles to come in to do the sleeves, and I had just finished my Dorney sweater, and I was like, I just want like a quick and easy cast on, something that's just like really fun to knit, and this yarn is really fun to knit with. And yes, these cables are complicated, but it still goes really quickly. Like I feel like a top-down hat just flies. So there's 55 rows in the overall cable design, and I think right now I'm at like 35, so I have maybe like 20 more rows of cabling, and then you just knit a bunch of 2x2 rib, and that gets folded up for the brim. So yeah, it's so soft and fluffy, and it has like a real nice halo. I don't know if you can see that. But yeah, it's very fun to knit. Highly recommend it if you want to try like a smaller, more intricate cable pattern. Sari's patterns are great. So yeah, she's hosting this knit along, the Sari's top-down hat knit along over on her Ravelry page, which I'll link below as well. So yeah, that is my Moon River cable hat by Sari Nordland. Okay, I have a couple more whips, but I'm just gonna touch on them. So the next one is my North Sea pullover that I'm knitting for my partner. Let me find the picture here. This is a Sandnes Garn pattern, and it is from this edition of their catalog, which I purchased from Mother Knitter, which is a US distributor of Sandnes Garn patterns. And let me show you here. This is the pattern. So it's a bottom up fingering weight raglan sweater. It's all over color work. And if you watched my last episode, you probably saw me like fretting over this a little bit. Because when I swatched, I didn't get gauge. My gauge was small by several, like 4 stitches. It was fairly small. So I just decided to be a little chaotic and go up 2 needle sizes and cast on. So this is hard to show because the color work's making it all bunchy, but you can see I've made a little progress. So I've probably knit like, I don't know, a couple inches, 3.5 inches maybe. But you can see the color work motif starting to come out. This yarn is Sandnes Garn Mini Alpaca, also from Mother Knitter. And these colors are rust and blue. And this is really fun to knit. It takes a really long time because the color work rows take me forever. And it's fingering weight, but you know, I did like over like 1 whole repeat of this like last night. So I feel like it's gonna grow more quickly than I expect. I have some concerns about it. I think going up to this needle size, the fabric's gonna be a little bit more airy than I probably would have liked. I mean, it's solid, but you can even like see some light through it. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm also a little concerned I'm concerned it's not gonna fit. So I kind of just, and this is like me being a bad knitter. There's yarn on the floor. I've kind of just decided to like go a little chaotic with this and just knit it, and whatever size it turns out, it turns out. And if he can wear it, great. And if not, also great. I can give it to someone else in our friend group who it will fit, because I don't know. I'm really enjoying knitting it, and I don't want to be stressed out about it. And I definitely don't want to re-knit it in a different size. So I'm just kind of gonna go with it and follow the pattern and see where it takes us. And maybe that makes me a really bad knitter, but that's what we're gonna do. It's the first time I'm knitting something for him that's a garment, and I think I will definitely knit him other garments, but I would make different choices. I would use a heavier yarn. I would choose a top-down pattern, because I feel like it's gonna be very hard for me to fit this to him as I go, with it being a bottom-up raglan. But yeah, so I would make different choices. I'm still gonna finish this because it's really fun to knit, and I'm enjoying this yarn a lot and the pattern. But yeah, you know, if you have any recommendations for how to knit bottom-up sweaters on other people, would love to hear them. Please let me know. But yeah, so I'm just kind of plugging away on it, knitting the body. Once I get a little more done, I'll probably steam block it and pop it on and see how it's fitting, and we go from there. So yes, this is my North Sea pullover by Sandnes Garn in Sandnes Garn Mini Alpaca. So that's that. The last thing is not technically a whip yet, but I'm very excited to cast it on. So I'm gonna make another Linto for the Let's Linto Cowl. And I talked a lot about this one on the last episode and about this color in particular. So it's going to be knit in these colors. So this is my crazy neon pink Barbie sweater, and I'm very excited about it. So yes, I'm making my next Linto in these colors and these yarns. So the fingering weight yarn is Kelborn Woolens Perennial Base in the color pink. And this was purchased at Wild Hand, which is a local yarn store based in Philadelphia, but I purchased it online. They have beautiful, fun, colorful yarns if you're interested. And the mohair is Pearl Soho's Tussock Base in the color Pink Joy, which I just love, and I'm so excited to wear this insane sweater and to cast it on and start knitting on it. So my other Lento was DK. This one's gonna be fingering and mohair, and I'm very excited to start this. I did decide after blocking and trying on my other Lento that this one I'm gonna go one size up, and I have more yarn, so it shouldn't be an issue. And I didn't mention this earlier, but I did actually have a whole skein of yarn left of my Camellia Fiber Co. Yak DK from my other Lento. So I have a whole skein of that now that I can, who knows what I'll do with it. Maybe a hat, could be some shorty socks, I don't know. So I had plenty of yarn, and I definitely have enough of this yarn to size up to the size 5, which I think for me will be a more comfortable fit. So very excited to cast that on. I'm sure I'll have some progress to show you for next time. My last whip slash acquisition is a quilting one. So I've been talking in the last few episodes about my next quilt project, which I was planning to make the Omega quilt by Miss Make. I'll put a picture in. And then they announced that they were going to host an Omega quilt-along it started this week. So it started on Monday, which was yesterday, the 30th. And I'm not sure if it's too late to sign up or not, but I hope you'll consider making an Omega along with us anyway. So I was kind of waffling. Usually for my quilts, I like to use secondhand fabrics. So usually I go to a local thrift store and get some sheets or old textiles to repurpose, give them a good clean, and then I like to use those for my quilts. But I decided that I was going to make a king size version of the Omega to put on our bed in the winter, because we just need like an extra layer. Right now we have like 2 random quilts on our bed because none of them are big enough to go over the whole king size bed. So I decided I was going to make a king size Omega, and I decided I was just going to go ahead and treat myself to some new quilting fabric to make this quilt, because I wanted some really specific colors since it was going to live on our bed. And then my local yarn store, so to speak, had a sale on all their quilting cotton. And so I decided, okay, it's been over a year since I've bought new fabric to make a quilt. I'm gonna treat myself to this because this is such a big project and it's gonna be so visible every day, and we're gonna use it every day. Not that you have to justify buying things for your project, it's just I normally use secondhand fabrics for my quilting, so for me it is a treat to buy new quilting fabrics. So I did go ahead and buy, I decided I'm gonna use 4 colors in my Omega. So each block is 4x4, so I'm gonna alternate them so they you have one of each color in each row and column. So here's my colors. I just have little swatches here. Our bedroom is it's very neutral, but we have some artwork in there that's kind of like desert colors. It's like very warm, and there's like creams and rusts, and there's like little pops of pink and navy. But my partner Troy like really loves the desert, so this was kind of inspired by him. So I will show you, here's the colors. So first of all, this darker rusty red color, this color is called Desert Dunes. And I should say these are all Art Gallery Pure Solids. And I like Art Gallery Pure Solids because they're very lightweight. So I love Kona too, but Kona are very heavy. And the idea of quilting a king size Kona quilt on my home machine like made me want to die. So I got Art Gallery instead. The second color is called Terracotta Tile. And then I have 2 creams here, and the darker one, which they look, they're pretty close actually. The darker one is called Sandstone, and the lighter one is called Coconut Milk. So all together, I'm trying to lay these out here. I plan to alternate them like this in the quilt. So like the 2 darker tones are fairly similar and the 2 lighter tones are fairly similar, but I thought it would give, just enough variation to keep it interesting. And then what I'm most excited about is the backing. So I have to refer to this because I keep forgetting the name of it. So this is this is Moon Glow by Alexia Abeg for Ruby Star Society, and this is the 108-inch backing, so it's the super wide backing. I hate piecing quilt backing. Usually I just use a whole king size sheet for my quilt backing, but I went ahead and bought this super wide backing. So yeah, it's just this really pretty, these really pretty floral and like hand and butterfly motifs. So I just thought that with these fabrics would be really pretty. So yeah, that's gonna be my Omega, and this is week 1 of the quilt along. So I believe what we're supposed to do this week is just acquire our fabrics if we haven't already, and prepare all the paper templates. I think I'm gonna start cutting out my fabric this week, because next week you're supposed to like cut everything and do all the strip piecing, and cutting my quilts out always takes me forever. And this is a king size quilt, so I'm gonna try and get a little bit ahead. This is only a 6-week quilt along, which is a little bit fast for me for a quilt this size. So I would like to get a little bit ahead. So hopefully by next week I'll have everything cut out at least. And then we'll start strip piecing. So yeah, not too late, I don't think, to jump in on the Omega quilt along, and I'm really excited to get started on that. I have one more acquisition to share with you all this week. So I've shared before one of my favorite places to get secondhand art supplies is the Make and Mend website. It's an online art and craft supply store, and everything is secondhand. So it's basically like a giant thrift store online for art supplies. And I recently picked up these 3 skeins of wool from there, and they were lotted together, like I bought them as a unit. I have no idea what they are. They're definitely wool, like I totally just smelled that, but yeah, they smell very sheepy, so I'm confident that it's wool. They're a little bit variegated. So there's like a lighter, brighter blue, and I have 2 skeins of that, and I have a skein of navy. And I think I want to make like a cowl or a scarf with these, something to wear with my new coat that I'm working on, my poppy coat that has those like little stripes of blue. I think this as like a scarf would really bring that out. So yeah, I'm on the lookout for like a pretty color work or striped cowl or scarf to make these into. I would guess that this is like a DK or worsted weight. Let me see. You can see how thick it is. It's very lightly spun. Yeah, I would guess this is like a DK probably. I want to try and like reverse engineer this and see if I can figure out how much yardage I have. Maybe this doesn't make any sense at all, but my plan was to like measure out 10 yards and then weigh that, and then weigh the skein, and then try and like reverse engineer to figure out how many yards per grams I have and like what weight of yarn this is and how much I have. So that's gonna be some math that I'll be mathing in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, those are my acquisitions. And next I'm just gonna share a couple of things with you that I've been loving lately. So first thing I've been loving lately is this article that I recently read and was recently published in the New York Times. I will put a little picture of it and I'll put a link below. The New York Times, they are behind a paywall, so if they do so many free articles a month, so I apologize if you're not able to read this. Try again at the beginning of next month. I think usually everyone gets like a couple of free articles before they kind of shut it down. But if you do pay for the New York Times, or you are able to get this as one of your free articles, it was a lovely, lovely read. It's all about the revolutionary power of knitting, and I just found it delightful. You know, I feel like in the past few years, we've all maybe like found new ways to like use our craft to speak about things that are important to us, or you know, craftivism is on the rise, which is like activism through crafting, and all of that kind of stuff is discussed in the article. And just love to see knitting getting a shout out like this in such a major publication. And the person that wrote this article also recently published a book about their experience knitting and dyeing, and I just downloaded it on Libby and I'm excited to listen to it. So this article is great, give it a read, and if you get a chance to check out the book, I'll probably talk more about that on a future episode as well. But yeah, this was one thing that I was loving right now. The next thing is a recipe. So I am a big like cheese and crackers as a snack person, and I love pimento cheese, but I haven't found one that I really like from any of the grocery stores that we go to. So New York Times also just published a recipe for make your own pimento cheese, and it was so quick and easy and delicious, and I'm loving it. So I will link that recipe, but I'll also find one that is more easily accessible for anyone that doesn't have a New York Times cooking subscription. So yeah, highly recommend. Good on crackers, good on like, they show it on a sandwich. I feel like if you did like a grilled pimento cheese sandwich situation, that would be amazing. So this is like a 5-minute recipe that's bringing me some joy lately. So that's the one thing. And then last but not least, very exciting, bowling. Recently my partner and I took his parents and my parents bowling, and I don't think any of us have been bowling, definitely not since the pandemic started, but for many years before that. So it was so fun. I just feel like it's nice to get back to these things that we used to do, that brought us joy before the world went crazy, and it's just nice to find like a little bit of downtime and fun in those activities again. Something maybe you haven't done since you were younger or since for years, you know. So that was just delightful, and I think all the parents really enjoyed it as well. So recommend some kind of nostalgic activity in these colder months. So that's it for me today. Let me know if you're participating in any of the knit-alongs or quilt-alongs. Let me know what you're working on. I feel like my whip situation is like a little bit more under control right now. Last time I talked to you all, I was feeling a little like, oh, I have too much going on. But I'm getting more comfortable with having like 5 or so things on the go, and I just, yeah, I feel like I'm really settling into the year and my routine, and I'm feeling good about it. So yeah, please let me know what you're working on. Let me know if you have any color work suggestions for my blue yarns that I want to make into a scarf or a cowl. And I will see you all in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, please like the video, please subscribe, maybe share it on Instagram. Your support really means the world to me, and I just want to continue growing this little community. So thank you so much, and I will see you all in a few weeks. Bye.